In honor of it being Veterans Day this week, I'm doing something a little different on the pod today, but I know it's going to be just as valuable as my typical episodes. This one's going to be a little bit more personal, and here's why. You may or may not know that I am a spouse of a United States Marine Corps veteran, and being a spouse to a veteran has shaped a lot of things in my life. My husband and I have been married for over 14 years, been together for over 16 years, and there have been a ton of life lessons that I've experienced in those last 16 years being married to someone, let's say with trauma, with post-traumatic stress disorder, and a number of different other conditions that have to do with childhood and military service, right? We're all complex individuals. And if you haven't gone back and listened to the episode on sales and empathy, where I interview my husband, I would love for you to do that. I highly recommend it. I'll link it in the show notes. But I want to talk today about life lessons from veterans or military spouses that are unique and may not be commonly known to civilians. And whether you are a veteran yourself, you're active duty, you're a military spouse, or you don't have anyone in your immediate family that is related to the armed forces, there's a ton of takeaways in this that I want to go over. So we're going to focus on 7 of these today. And so I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. And I would love to hear your thoughts after this episode, if these are things that you knew, if any of this was enlightening. And I would recommend that you share it with your friends who can relate to this. So the first of the 7 life lessons that I have learned from being a military spouse is that adaptability is a superpower. Military life teaches you to adapt quickly to changing circumstances. And my husband has talked a lot about, he of course relocated. He went to a new base and he had to adjust after a deployment, the reacclimation process, navigating life after service. I've watched him have to adapt quickly in a number of areas. The biggest area I watched him have to adapt to was reacclimating to civilian life after his military service. And this adaptability extends beyond logistics. It's about staying resilient in the face of uncertainty and knowing that flexibility is key to thriving. It's a process, and it's something that I think many of us can relate to, right? Like we've all had to be adaptable, but I see with military service members, they're required to be by their training and just the safety of themselves and those around them. They have to be all the way in, and then they have to turn around and be all the way out. And the insight that I think that civilians could take away from this as well, many people can plan. Those with military experience know how to pivot seamlessly when those plans fall apart. In my opinion, they are much better at adaptability, and their adaptability is a true superpower that we can all learn from. The second is the importance of community. In military life, your network isn't just a social circle, it's your lifeline. Spouses and veterans learn the value of tight-knit communities where people can lean on each other for support, for childcare, for advice, and for emotional resilience. And this has been one of the biggest blessings in our life. We've lived in a couple of different locations. My husband's lived all over the place. But us together in the last 14 years of our marriage, we've lived in a couple of different locations. And I have felt the need to truly, get involved in the local community wherever I'm at. That's very, very important to me. But what I also know is community can be spread out all over the world. My husband's best friends, and therefore a lot of my best friends, are all over the place, all over the US and even outside of the US. And I think civilians might not understand the depth of those bonds or the active role the community plays in daily life when it comes to military service members. Military families often build a family away from family, teaching the importance of creating and nurturing supportive relationships wherever it is that you go. And it's very regular, like every single week, I'll see a group text popping up and tons of notifications on my husband's phone. And it's almost always when he's either cooking on the Blackstone or the green egg or whatever, and he's sending pictures of what it is that he's making to a group of his military buddies. And I just love to see it. Then they all send each other pictures of what they're making for dinner. And, it's not the same as when they were, let's say, sleeping in the desert in Kosovo, but they have got a lifelong bond and they know how to nurture it. And they also know how to jump in and out of each other's lives and not punish each other for the gap in time. And I think civilian folks, we can learn a lot about the way military members treat the sacred piece of their relationships that they've built. The third key learning would be resourcefulness, even in the face of scarcity. Military families and military personnel are experts at making the most out of limited resources, whether it's stretching a budget, repurposing household items, or finding innovative solutions to everyday problems. Because of deployments, frequent moves, and tight schedules, this instills a level of ingenuity that becomes second nature. And it's so regular that my husband I'll be like, oh, I haven't even seen that coat. And he's like, I've had this coat for 20 some years. I've had this watch for 23 years. And it always makes me laugh that he takes good care of things. That's part of it. The military teaches you how to take really good care of what you've got. You keep it clean, you keep it nice. You're always putting it back in a better position than the way you got it. But also, like, they understand that you don't have access to everything at all times, so you're not going to be wasteful. And I just think on the civilian side of things, this kind of practical creativity and resilience in managing resources is invaluable, but not as widespread in civilian life, in my opinion, where stability and excess are far more common. And so I just think we have a lot to learn when it comes to how to be resourceful, even in the face of scarcity. We've got, by the time this episode launches, we will know who the new president's going to be in January of 2025. And there's some things that will come along with that, some potential scarcity mindset and then other people abundance mindset. And when we're faced with scarcity, what are we going to do to tackle that? A lot of people get really fearful, but people with like this military background, they get creative. It brings out some innovation, which is pretty beautiful. Fourth key takeaway is that sacrifice is more than a buzzword. And I can feel this in my core just because I've seen my husband's emotions about this. The true meaning of sacrifice goes beyond the individual serving. Spouses can have to put their own careers, their educations, their personal plans on hold to support their loved ones and keep their families stable. Now, for me, I met my husband right after he had gotten out. So my sacrifice has been more on the side of helping him transition into civilian life, helping him navigate trauma as he's felt more secure in himself and allowing his feelings come to bear, the process of psychotherapy, and kind of untangling those learnings that were very good and vital at the time, but have made it hard to, let's say, associate with emotions and things like that. So I'm not saying that all spouses, whether during active duty or after, have sacrificed. I'm just saying what I reference as far as putting my career, education, and personal plans on hold to support loved ones, that wasn't my personal experience, but I've seen it be the personal experience of a lot of friends. And this level of sacrifice instills a deep sense of purpose and a long-term view of life that focuses on shared goals and delayed gratification. I think so often we just want what we want. And military spouses and military personnel understand that they have a commitment and an obligation that they've signed up for together as a family, and they're going to honor that no matter what. And life will look different in the future, but for right now, we're going to pay that sacrifice. And I just feel like in civilian world, sacrifice is often discussed in theory, but military families live it daily. And it teaches the profound value of putting others before oneself. And this makes me think about when the NFL was having which ended up being then across all sporting events in a lot of different areas, but individuals were kneeling during the playing of the national anthem. And I watched my husband, process that. And it was painful. It was painful, honestly, because he had put his name on the dotted line and he had fought for freedom and literally fought and had lost friends and colleagues and peers and brothers and sisters in arms. And then to watch people just kind of disrespect the flag and, just not value any of the patriotism or the sacrifices that were made, that was really hard. And I watched him have a lot of deep feelings over that. But then when I would ask him about it, what he had said was, I fought for the right for people to act so effing disrespectful. Like, our country is free and you are free to have your feelings about that. And that's what I fought for. Unfortunately, you're pointing those freedoms at being disrespectful toward, the sacrifice that service members gave, but you have the right for that. And so even in the midst of his pain, he could see the value of putting others before oneself. And that's what he has done time and time again. And I just think we have a lot to learn about that. This big area of learning is the power of silent strength. The ability to endure challenges without constant verbal acknowledgement is a skill military spouses and veterans master. They show strength in handling fears during deployments, managing households solo, and making tough decisions without always having the immediate support. And I think on the civilian side, while resilience is admired, the depth of silent strength and emotional endurance in military families often goes unseen by those who have not experienced similar challenges. And therefore, I think we take it for granted. There is some major learning that we could take from the military community who has endured this. And if you ask a service member or a service member's spouse what that's like, they're likely going to downplay it at first. Maybe it's because that was second nature to them and that's just like what they signed up for. Or maybe because they think that you can't possibly process it, or they don't want to necessarily share their experience because they don't want you to feel judged or ignorant about that. But if they were in a safe space to talk about it, I think you could learn a lot about their silent strength and their emotional endurance that is much higher than a lot of civilians. Sixth big learning that we could have from the military community is planning for the unexpected. Military life comes with uncertainty. Orders can change, deployment timelines can shift, and life-altering decisions can happen overnight. Veterans and military spouses learn to plan with contingencies in mind and to stay proactive even when things are unpredictable. On the civilian side, I just think most civilians may not plan with the same level of urgency or foresight, often taking stability for granted. This life lesson teaches that preparedness is more than having a plan. It's having multiple plan Bs ready to deploy and also knowing, you kind of get what you get and you don't throw a fit. Yes, we've got like this plan that we think is going to happen, but you likely won't know that a military family is on plan B, C, or D because they're just rolling with it. That's just the way their life is. And I think so many times in the civilian sector, you will see us drag our feet, stick our bottom lip out, kick and scream if things aren't going our way. And this is just like common practice for military families. The seventh big learning, and I know that you surely know I could do 50 big learnings or 100 big learnings, but I was trying to keep it pared down. The seventh one is to cherish the little moments. So the military lifestyle is one where loved ones can be gone for months or even years. And this instills a powerful appreciation for the small, everyday moments when families are together, like shared dinners, simple outings, or bedtime routines. Life's fleeting nature becomes a tangible lesson that prioritizes presence over perfection. Many civilians live at a faster pace and forget to savor the moments. And this lesson from military life is that the present is precious and being fully engaged with loved ones is priceless. And I would say at the root of mine and my husband's decision to move away from a suburban area and move out to a rural area was that deep craving to slow life down. My husband was active duty for 10 years, or if you're a Marine, it was just shy of 10 years, 9 years and some months. And there was a lot of movement going on during that time and a lot of uncertainty. And so there's always been this craving I know that he has had to get out of the hustle and to not be like in the creek floating down with everyone else. Like he is very confident to step out and make a hard choice or to step out and do what everyone else is not doing or to step out and say, I disagree. That is a place that he's very comfortable in doing. And really that's a do or die situation from a leadership perspective. He was a staff sergeant. If he would have just agreed with what everyone said all the time, he could have put his platoon in danger. And so that strength is so beautiful. And because of that strength, he's able to say, hey, we are living our lives in this way. And I think that we should live it in a different way. And that was a hard choice that he made. And essentially my response to that was, you're going to have to lead. You're going to have to lead me because I don't really want to do this. I hear what you're saying. It's very logical. I think it's likely a good choice, but I don't want to. Like my feelings are making me not want to. And Through my husband's military service, he has done a lot of things almost daily that he probably doesn't want to. He didn't want to stand in his underwear at 5 o'clock in the morning and be screamed at in his face. He didn't want to scrub toilets with a toothbrush, and he didn't want to stay behind as an instructor while his students went out and were injured or ultimately killed. There's a lot of things on a scale of things he didn't want to do, but he showed up and honored his commitments every day. And you can say whether that's because that was a requirement of the job or because of what he had learned and it became him. However, you want to position it to make yourself feel better about yourself. That is who he is and who so many military service members are. The level of commitment is so rich. And he was able to say, this is what is good and this is what is right and this is what we need to do in the next step. And I'm a strongly opinionated person, but I know that when it's a big decision like that, it's my responsibility to come alongside and help and vet the decision, make sure that we're being thoughtful, weigh the pros and cons, and then ultimately get my rear end on board, which is what I did. And so we made this move to slow our life down, and we are having family dinners around the table, which is something that I've got two stepdaughters and something that he wasn't able to do all of the time with them if he was deployed or, working in his service role. And now he doesn't take that for granted. And he spends a ton of time out in nature and he doesn't take that for granted. That's the way that he connects to his maker. There's just a lot when it comes to like my family and dedicating time to be around my mom and dad and our nieces and nephew that I can see that he's very intentional with. Now, he's not the biggest communicator and he might not share his feelings in this way, but I see the level of intentionality. And that's because he cherishes the little moments. He knows what it's like when you miss them. And he also knows what it's like when he watched other people lose them indefinitely to death. These lessons carry deep-rooted wisdom gained from unique experiences that demand resilience, creativity, and community. For civilians, these lessons can inspire a greater sense of adaptability, appreciation for community, and a more profound respect for time and relationships. So they were that adaptability is a superpower. There's an importance in community. Be resourceful in the face of scarcity. Sacrifice is more than a buzzword. There's a power in silent strength. We want to plan for the unexpected and we want to cherish the little moments. So I hope that if you're listening and you're a service member, especially if you're a Marine, happy birthday, Marines, a few days late. If you are a veteran, I hope you feel honored and seen by this. I know I just didn't even scratch the surface of what you have learned. And if you're active duty, I thank you for what you're doing right now. And I hope that you feel the love and the appreciation and the support from afar. Civilians, I think we have so much to learn from military service. I think we put leaders on a pedestal. If you're a CEO, if you're a business owner, you're this special person. And we forget that we've got these very intensely trained, dedicated, committed, resilient folks all around us and our friends that are veterans that we could learn so much from. So I challenge you to ask a few questions and just know a lot of veterans aren't quick to share, right? Because of the reasons that I said, they might feel like it's inappropriate to share. They might feel like they're unrelatable to you. They might feel like you feel judged by what they're sharing. There's a number of reasons why they might not share, or it might be too painful. Maybe they're not ready. But if you're in a relationship with a veteran, I recommend that you ask a few questions like, what was your experience when it came to your community, your military community? Who do you miss? And what was that like? Or what's different now? Or, how did your military service help you to cherish those little moments more? Or talk to me about silent strength. I know that you develop these skills in the military to show strength in handling fears and making tough decisions without always having immediate support. Like, ask them some questions and then give them the time and the space to just wash that wisdom that they have over you. I would love for you to do that and honor a veteran in that way today, because I think it's important that we show them that we care about what they did. And that honestly, in the business community, when we're like, oh, you don't have any leadership experience, so many times we forget how much they were leading themselves and others in much harder moments than what we've experienced in economic downturn or uncertainty. All of us are dealing with hard challenges, business, civilian, non-civilian sector, all of that. We're all dealing with challenges. And I think one of the best ways to embrace the chaos is to use the people around us to help us learn and grow more wise so we can make better decisions or respond better in the face of adversity in the future. So friends, don't waste the chaos. Embrace it. Until next time.